So, what's more scary for NBA offenses than seeing the alien Victor Wembanyama hanging out in the paint? Well, the answer to that question is seeing an emotional Wemby lead the San Antonio Spurs back from a 25-point deficit at home against the Clippers.
That was one of the best wins I've been part of. That was one of the best games I've been part of in my career, in my life, basketball life. And that was definitely the best 30 hours of basketball, the best 30 hours of my life for sure.
So why is Victor Wembanyama at this point being so emotional? I mean, if you think about it, it's not like this was an actual playoff game. They still have 19 games left in the regular season.
We've faced some very different trials over these past two games and have been able to answer the call on every single one of them.
Can you imagine how emotional the big fella is actually going to be when the Spurs start winning playoff series? Super quick, sorry to interrupt, but if you are new to the NBA Rundown, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, drop in your comments. So yes, Wemby had a huge 30 hours of basketball, 27 against the Clippers, and the night before posted 38 against the Detroit Pistons. So pause the music for just a sec. Now, I just wanted to take a second and say, I think the reason Victor Wembanyama was so emotional over a game in early March where they beat the Los Angeles Clippers after trailing by 25 is because the alien actually truly cares about actually winning. Now, I'm not saying other NBA superstars don't care about winning, but there's different levels to this all. And maybe Wembanyama actually cares more than just about anybody else in the NBA. So look, clearly the NBA at this point is in big trouble, especially if Victor is going to get that emotional after a victory against the Clippers in early March. I am just saying. Now, we're going to talk about why this San Antonio Spurs team, quite frankly, is just so dangerous. We've got some more clips from Victor as well, which we'll play for you in just a bit. But this San Antonio Spurs team with an emotional leader like Victor Wembanyama could spell trouble for the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and of course, the Denver Nuggets. We're going to explore why this team is actually so dangerous and why everybody in the NBA should be fearful of what an emotional Victor Wembanyama might actually be able to do when the playoffs actually tip off. Now, I want to start by taking a look at Wemby's last two games. He scored 27 and had 10 rebounds against the Clippers. In the game before that, they absolutely destroyed the Detroit Pistons at home. 38 points for Wemby and 16 rebounds in the game. And the appropriate word for that particular game related to Wemby's performance is dominance, which is exactly what he did. Now, on the season, Wemby's averaging just under 24 points per game, grabbing around 11 rebounds and has 3 assists per game. And we haven't even talked at all about his defense, where he's averaging north of 3 blocks per game. And quite frankly, if that's all he did, he'd probably be averaging around 5 blocks per game. Wemby's influence in the National Basketball Association on other offenses is nothing short of spectacular. Spectacular in the sense that if you are a San Antonio Spurs fan, or quite frankly, just a fan of the NBA, you have to be so excited about what Victor Wembanyama does to opposing offenses. Sit down if you haven't done it and watch an entire game in which Wemby actually plays. There will be a ton of plays that don't show up in the statistics that prove Wemby is an actual alien.
And we had everybody participating, Carter, 20 minutes, he had the loudest 5 points. 3 rebounds I've seen in my life. I'm super proud of him.
So there's Wemby in his 3rd year carrying about his rookie Carter Bryant, who only scored 5 points in the game, but he felt like it was important to actually call him out publicly for the job that he did. Now, we all think that Carter Bryant is actually going to be a really good basketball player in the NBA, and we think given some time, he could even rise to that level someday of actually being an all-star in the association. That, quite frankly, is how good he is. Now, the San Antonio Spurs, at least entering the night, were 2.5 behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've won 9 out of their last 10 games, and during the past week, they beat the 76ers, the Pistons, and then, of course, the Clippers at home. Now, I think De'Aaron Fox has absolutely fit in well with Victor Wembanyama and the culture that the Spurs have developed. We know that Castle has continued to get better in his 2nd year in the league. Devin Vassell continues to be an integral part of the team. Maybe not every single game, but there are games that are Devin Vassell games. There are games that are De'Aaron Fox games. And there are games that are Stephon Castle games. In other words, this San Antonio Spurs team is not just Wemby and a bunch of scrub players. It is Wemby with a wide cast of characters, and I've only mentioned a couple of the other scoring threats on this team so far. Then you have Julian Champagne and Kendall Johnson, who occasionally heat up and have absolutely huge games and are integral parts of why the San Antonio Spurs have been the best basketball team in the NBA since the All-Star break. Then there's the rookie Dylan Harper, the veteran Harrison Barnes, and for some toughness, Luke Cornett, who often gets overlooked by people in the media. You gotta have somebody on your team that's, if you will, a hockey enforcer. And that is exactly what Luke Cornett brings to this team. When I look up and down the roster of San Antonio at this point, I can't help but think, why did so many people in the media actually pick the San Antonio Spurs team to barely make the playoffs this year? Was it that they were worried that Victor Wembanyama's blood clot issues were going to continue to persist this season? Or did they just not realize what San Antonio was actually building? It has been clear as water being wet since the start of this season that the San Antonio Spurs team is not ahead of schedule. It's actually on schedule. This team at this point is fully capable of actually winning the whole thing. Love to get your thoughts and opinions, North America. Please go ahead and drop them in. Look, Wemby is great for basketball. Wemby is great for the NBA. Watching Wemby play defense is the highlight of my week almost every week, and maybe that says something about me. But I swear, watching him just treat the opposing teams like they're a bunch of little ants that he's crushing night in and night out is one of the most entertaining things on television, including whatever happens with the Real Housewives of wherever. All right, thanks so much for tuning in to the NBA Rundown. As always, North America, I'm Dave Dabbah, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.